Hey, this is Doug Jones, but you are listening to Pop Culture Addicts.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to Pop Culture Addicts. I am Tim. I am your host, and this is your reminder that you are listening and or watching a show that is made by this here nerd for all you nerds. So I'm glad that you guys are here to join in the fun. Now, our guest today is an icon in creature acting and creation. You have loved him in shows and movies like The Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and Star Trek Discovery. His background includes work as a mime and time as Charlie Cardinal. That's the mascot of Ball State University. So, in our chat tonight, we'll discuss his origin story, how training as a mime influenced his work in character creation and creature creation. We're also going to talk about his new documentary with its upcoming Kickstarter campaign. Now, if you're new here, please be sure to click that like and follow button. I want to make sure that you don't miss great upcoming interviews with future guests. Now, at this time, let's welcome Doug Jones, the one and only Doug Jones, to Pop Culture Addicts. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Tim. Very kind of you.
Yeah. I always like it when I make during my introductions, when I make note of something that maybe somebody didn't think that was going to get talked about, and you can kind of see the eyelids kind of go up a little bit. So when I mentioned Charlie
Cardinal.
Yeah, Charlie Cardinal from Ball State. The eyeballs went up a little bit like, oh, he knows about that.
That's something not everybody knows about, but I was a big bird in a red suit with the yellow floppy feet and yellow tights on my skinny legs. I have great legs for a bird. The Fighting Cardinals at Ball State University in Indiana. I was for the basketball team. There was a different one for football, but I was there for 2 years, my junior and senior year there. And they still say to this day that I was the best Charlie they ever had. So I don't want to boast or anything, but that was my first costume character ever, and Ball State will never let the world forget about it.
As well, they shouldn't. Yeah. So where I live in Michigan, we have a lot of MAC schools nearby. So I'm very familiar with Ball State. So as soon as it came up, I was like, oh, he was a Cardinal. All right. Okay. So Doug, the very first question I typically ask everybody, other than, hey, why were you in a red Cardinal suit? Is I like to know about their origin story. And I do this for one of two reasons. Number one, I like to know what makes people tick, why you do what you do, why you got involved in the line of work that you got involved in, and what keeps you coming back. It just helps me to get to know you as an artist. And then secondly, as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm kind of a nerd, and us nerds love a good intro for our heroes. We love a good origin story. So in the story of Doug Jones, what made you say, I want to be in entertainment?
Well, gosh, for your nerdy side, I wish I had a story where a spider bit me and I became an entertainer. Not true. I was a geeky, skinny, gangly kid, which is hard to imagine. I know, looking at me now, right? But I was very out of sorts, and I thought I was the ugliest person in the whole world. And I grew up in Indiana, and it's like being in the Midwest. If there's, especially back in my day, in the 60s, 70s, when you're growing up, if you don't fit a perfect niche, you will get made fun of by other kids.
Yes.
Who think they're perfect, but come to find out in later years, they were also terrified of not being perfect. That's why they made fun of me. So, okay, I get it now, but as a kid, I didn't. So I took all that home with me. And I took my long, skinny neck home with me going, I hate it. It's so ugly. It's an ostrich neck. It's a giraffe neck. Just like they said. And what I would find was on my TV would be sitcoms and variety shows and musical movies with Jerry Lewis, Danny Kaye, even old ones like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, in reruns and old Saturday morning movie shows, and then also sitcoms like the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was my hero, a lanky man who was leading a TV show, and then also goofy characters like Gilligan's Island and Gomer Pyle and Hogan's Heroes, and the list goes on and on. And oh gosh, and a hero of mine also, Don Knotts as Barney Fife in the Andy Griffith Show. These were not romantic leading men; they were goofy-looking fellows that made a living from it and entertained me and made me laugh and made me feel things. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe that's where I belong then. And they kind of like, you kind of befriend those people that help you through your
Hmm.
childhood like that. And I mean, these actors never knew it, except for Dick Van Dyke. I finally met him about a year ago. And finally, it was right before he turned 100 years old. And I was
Oh,
able, at a
cool.
tea party, I was able to tell him all of this, how much he helped me through my gangly years. And if it wasn't for him, I may not be the actor that I am today. So he was very kind and generous about that, and he made comments about my long, lanky legs, and he didn't believe that I was actually 65 years old, and no, it was so sweet of him. It couldn't have been nicer. Um, so that was it. That was so that's why. And then when I got to the high school stage, my high school drama teacher, Nancy Montgomery, was the first person who actually was able to do something with these hopes and dreams and this silly look of mine. So she cast me in a couple plays, put me on stage, and directed me. She was the first person who ever did that, and and that's when I walked out on the stage for the first time with an audience, giggling at something silly I was doing. It was like, I'm hooked. I want to do this for the rest of my life. That was my origin story.
I love that. And I think the thing I love most about all of that, number one, I'm a sucker for Dick Van Dyke. So
Yeah,
um, I love the fact that you got a chance to talk to him and tell him everything. That's such a beautiful thing.
yeah.
I think anytime that there's someone who has affected you so greatly, being able to share that with them, and then have that reaction, that kind reaction from them.
Mm.
Um, I would imagine for you that had to be very gratifying.
Oh, so gratifying. And I also, having he and his wife are very big Halloween fans. That makes them very big Hocus Pocus fans. So
Ah,
they both knew who I was immediately as Billy Butcherson from their Hocus Pocus movies that they love. And I was even invited to come back for their Halloween party last October that they have at their house every year. So no, just like I never dreamed that this would be happening to me. But I was able to tell him the very first movie I ever saw in theaters as a 6-year-old was Mary Poppins.
oh yeah.
And I don't know, I'm sorry, a 4-year-old. I think it came out in 1964, and I was 4. But I remember vividly this woman flying in on an umbrella, and her dear friend was a chimney sweep who was goofy, gangly, and danced and sang and like was so up and fun. And I took all that home with me, going, "Oh, one day I want to be that chimney sweep." And so I was able to tell Dick Van Dyke to his face that I channeled some of that into my Billy Butcherson character. Even gave him a Cockney accent. Yes, I did. So, it came full circle moments like that are just treasures to me.
That's beautiful. I love that. All right, that's a great origin story. I love, yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the documentary that's in production. Documentary's getting made about you. It's called Get Me Doug Jones.
Mhm.
And so I'm hoping what you can do is tell our audience what you know about the production of the documentary and what they can look forward to with both the movie and the Kickstarter, from your
Right.
level of knowledge with it.
Well, thank you for mentioning this. It's very, very sweet. I'm very humbled to the point of embarrassment that a documentary is being made about me in the first place. It was not my idea. Oh my gosh, no. I never once said, you know what we need? We need a documentary about me. Never did I say that. My appearance manager, Derek Mackey, has been handling my convention appearances and signing events and public things. He's been handling that part of my career for but the last 18 years.
Okay.
And we got to know each other very well over this time traveling together. And he's seen me interact with fans, and he's been there for my stage time when I'm doing Q&As with an audience. And he's gotten to know both professional me and personal me. Our families have become very, very entwined, and we're like family to each other now. So he's seen personal Doug and business Doug a lot. And he approached me twice already before this to say, "Hey, I want to produce a documentary about you." And I said, "No." So then,
No.
a year later, "Hey, I'd like to still want to produce that documentary about you." I said, "No, there is nothing to see here, folks." And then he finally, on the third try, he kind of like cornered me. We were at a convention in Las Vegas. It was the Star Trek convention. And of course, with my 5 seasons on Star Trek Discovery, that gave me street cred at the Star Trek
Oh, for
events.
sure.
So, and the big Las Vegas convention is probably the biggest one that happens every year. And so he texted me that morning before we went downstairs to start the day at the convention. Hey, before we go down to the floor, can you stop by my hotel room? I want to talk to you about something real quick. Sure. So I came by his room, and I was sort of like, what do you call it? Ambushed.
Yes.
It was him, and he had a guest there. It was a young director named William Conlon. He introduces me to William. Doug, this is William Conlon. He's a director and a journalist who's done, red carpet events, and he comes from a journalistic family, and they've done so many interviews over the years. And he also is a producer, a director, and has made his own documentary called Making Apes, about the beginnings of Planet of the Apes and all of the work that went into making those actual apes.
Okay.
And he is a geeky fanboy of creatures and monsters. And so he's also, being with his film credits and with his geekery and his love of monsters, I think he'd be the perfect person to direct your documentary. And I'm like, oh, are we here again? So, but now he's brought in a director who, like, I could see that we were going to be in pretty good hands, right?
Mhm.
So I said, all right, listen, what I don't want, I have done so many interviews over my 40-year career. It's 40 years this June, by the way.
Oh,
Not
wow.
crazy, which is weird because I'm only 36. But I'm kidding. Um, so I talked about my career from start to finish ad nauseum over the years. I don't need to do a special documentary rehashing the exact same stories again. So if we do this, my desire would be to bring in um, like proteges of mine I have a lot of young actors that approach me all the time now. Hey, I want to do what you do. And there've been a few that I've taken the time to meet up with and sort of mentor. And I wanted to
Okay.
include them in this story because I'm at an age now and a time in my life and career where I'm not playing quite so many monsters anymore. I am I've been leaning into human characters the last 2 years,
Mhm.
especially. That's all I've done is humans, and I've been loving this part of my career very much. So there are young people that I will refer that are tall, skinny boys that that will be happy to wear a rubber suit and be the best monster you can have. So I wanted to include that whole transitionary thing for them in this documentary, and also include my family, my 3 older brothers, my sisters-in-law, my
Mhm.
lovely Mrs. Lori, my daughter Natisha, cousins, nephew, nieces. I want to gather a group of people whose voices have never been heard out there and their impressions of me. If you want
Love
if
it.
you want to get the full story in a documentary, it has to go far beyond the IMDb credits. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, this is great." So now I'm like, "Oh, what have I done?" So now I've committed myself to the work of connecting them all, arranging interviews for all these people in my life that I know personally. And one of the highlight for me that now, and it's in process still. There's a lot of these
Yeah.
interviews that have not been gotten yet, but they were able to, I should say, I do have a producer credit on it, even though they're doing most of the work. But we as a team were able to finance the first part of this ourselves. And but now there's a Kickstarter campaign for finishing funds because
Okay.
are still some out of state interviews to get. That's going to require travel. And there are also some once it's done and finished, they have to, in the can, editing, sound
Mhm.
design, music, and there's even some well-known songs they want to include in this for specific reasons. Getting the rights to those songs could
Yeah.
be pretty expensive. And then once it's done, submitting it to film festivals. Every submission costs money, whether you get in the
Mhm.
festival or not. You'll never see that money again. So there's so much expense that goes with that. And when you do get accepted into a film festival, well, getting the team there to make the appearance and do the Q&As, that costs us the
Yes.
production, not the film festival. So it just all it's there's a lot yet to come. So that's why they put up a Kickstarter that will be starting May 18th. It's going to go for about 45 days, I believe. And so if you go to Kickstarter and search "Get Me Doug Jones," you will find it. And if it's before the 18th, you'll see like a keep me notified button to tag. And if it's after the 18th, you'll see the level of rewards that there are. And I put in some things from my own personal archives into the rewards. One of a kind things like my hoof boots from Star Trek Discovery. Before
Oh
they
wow.
made those hoof boots, I had a practice pair to walk around in because it's a high heel shoe with no heel behind it. And in order to see that I could even walk in these things, they
Hmm.
made a practice pair out of light blue neoprene with markings on it and in my perfect size. So I wore those around and walked around my neighborhood before we ever started filming, so I could make sure I could walk as Saru. I have that practice pair, and they're up for grabs at a very high level of giving, of course, because they're one of a kind.
Oh
Um,
sure.
there's also some prosthetic pieces of Saru from Star Trek that are still on a vacuum form of my real face. I think we have one or just two of those. And some signed scripts from Star Trek Discovery and also from What We Do in the Shadows. And then
Oh
a lot of
nice.
my co-stars that have been interviewed. Oh gosh, they've already gotten so many interviews in the can with actors like Ron Perlman from the Hellboy movies with me.
Nice.
They have Sonequa Martin Green, the star of Star Trek Discovery. They also have Noah Wiley, who was the lead actor on Falling Skies that I was on for 3 seasons. And of course, God bless him. He's huge now with his Emmy winning The Pit.
The Pit,
Um,
yes.
yeah, he's done so. I'm so proud of him. And we have Harvey Guillen, who played Gizmo on What We Do
Hmm.
in the Shadows. And just yesterday, I'm sorry, just today, as we were recording this, a few hours ago, they just announced that they got a sit-down interview with Bette Midler. Yes, the Divine Miss M herself.
Oh wow.
Interview, yeah, from my Hocus Pocus movies. So that was I didn't, and they didn't tell me that was in the works. That was a big
That's
surprise
very
to me
cool.
that they contacted her and got a hold of. I'm tickled pink about that. So, and the list goes on. They also have producers, directors, and creature effects makeup people that have worked on me over the years with their comments. So it's going to be like a broad range of like different people and their impressions of me from different angles. And so I'm kind of it's very exposing. It's like walking out of the house in a Speedo and hoping people don't laugh. That's what it feels like to have this many people from this many walks of my life
Sure.
making comments about me. So and some best friends of 30 years plus, they're also being interviewed. So they've seen good Doug, bad Doug,
Yeah.
righteous Doug, sinful Doug. They've seen it all. So I was like, oh God, let's see. I don't want to hear what they say. So,
Right. Yeah.
so I'm very excited about this. It'll be a fun little piece. I don't know, embarrassing, like I said, but if you are so inclined out there to help the finishing funds, have a look at Kickstarter. And even if you don't care about the documentary, but you want some really cool stuff, have a look at what's available. Because if you're a collector of showbiz memorabilia, have a look at this. There's going to be a lot of signed photos with all the above mentioned co-stars have signed things that are going to be available for different levels of
Oh
giving.
wow. Yeah. Nice.
And yeah, so please have a look at the stuff, if nothing else, at Get Me Doug Jones on Kickstarter.
Perfect. And I'll make sure we put a link down below so people and down in our show notes so that our listeners and viewers can go to the website, see what's available, and yeah, it sounds like there's going to be some really great things up for
Yeah,
grabs. So that's very cool indeed. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit, Doug. Let's talk about your process of work and some of the training you received. Now, I mentioned earlier, we alluded to at the beginning, we joked about a little bit at the beginning about how you were a big red bird at Ball State as the mascot there. You were also a cast member at Kings Island down in Mason, Ohio. But how does your mime work, your mime training, translate onto screen for acting and character development?
a lot. I had no idea when I was a mime at Ball State University in a little troupe called Mime Over Matter. Get it?
Wonderful.
Uh, thank you. I had no idea how much training that was going to be giving me for the career I had yet to come. Uh, the mime art does wake up your body to realize how much communication happens from the mouth down. Verbal dialogue is a part of our communication, yes, an important
Right.
part. All the visuals we give off are, I would say, 50% of it. Uh, because if you use a common phrase like "I love you" and say, "I love you" or "I love you," those are different meanings, and different things happen with body language and the tilt of the head and a facial expression. Mime is nothing but those things, and so you really have to rely. I think it's kind of like when someone loses one of the five senses, hearing,
Hmm.
touch, when you lose your sight, your touch becomes way more acute and your hearing becomes more acute. Well, the same thing I think happens when you lose your verbal dialogue. Everything else has to up the game a bit.
Sure.
And that's how I have gone into the creature roles that I've played over the years too. Is if I'm missing my own eyeballs because there's some kind of a mask over me, well then I have to impress what my eyeballs might be doing with the head tilt, with the gesture of the hand, that can communicate those things. So being a mime in my early days really set that in motion and gave me an understanding of the body.
Okay. That actually makes a lot of sense to me because my mom has done ASL translation. So
Yeah,
with that, I mean, we're talking about a loss of a sense. So there's not the ability to hear, and they have to be very emphatic with certain gestures and
right.
to relay and employ meanings of different words and feelings and phrases. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me. You lose one sense, you have the ability to showcase it in another way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right. And real quick for our listeners, if you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to click that like and follow button. You won't regret it. All right. Now, Doug, I have a question from a good friend of mine. Uh,
Oh,
she's a good friend. She's also a podcaster, and I call her my Star Trek Sherpa because I was not a big Star Trek fan before Jessi came around. And Jessi helped me to get to know Star Trek. And I was not embarrassed to ask her questions about things that I did not understand in the Star Trek universe because I grew up as a Star Wars kid thinking that Trek was stupid. So
okay.
there was
We
a
can
whole
have them
lack of
all.
pew pew pews and laser swords, and that's what I was more interested in as a kid.
Sure.
So, but as an adult, I find myself relating to the stories of Trek more and more. So, Jessi hosts a show called Crusher Convo. And Jessi asked me to ask you that since you are the master of disguise with all the prosthetics you have worn over the years, have you ever suggested an idea to help with the process or to make it better that's still used in the industry today?
Uh, I don't normally. When I have been otherworldly creatures or monsters or anything, the best artists in the world are creating that look. So my opinion, I feel, is would only hinder the process. I mean, these are people who've won Emmy Awards and Academy Awards for
Fair.
their work. It's not like, hey, you know what? I think it'd be great if you add some purple to that. That's the last thing they want to hear from me. When it comes to design uh, or making changes, what I will offer is suggestions to make it more performable for me.
Okay.
If it's a comfort thing, if there's something jabbing into my neck, is there any way to relieve that pressure so I can move my head? Um, and speaking, so since your friend Jessi is a Star Trek fan, when I was presented with Saru, um, it was the original design had finger extensions that came out to here, and that would make my fingers very, very, very long. Which I've worn
Sure.
finger extensions before, but in a Star Trek series, think of the amount of props you have to touch and deal with. Think of the amount of touch screens, switchers, levers
Yeah.
you have to push and
Yeah.
link up. About. And so I said in my first meeting with them, that's going to be a problem. If you never want me to ever touch a prop, I'll happily wear the finger extensions. Otherwise, I'm going to have to hand every device to someone else to jiggle with. So they're like, okay, so they shortened so Saru's fingers are what they are because I made that suggestion, just because I wouldn't be able to perform in it. Um, and the other thing, I guess, when Saru started, the first design for Saru the Kelpian design, which that's my species, was a completely different look. It was a winged head that had two wings that came up like this and 10 different eyeballs in the face None of them lined up with my own, by the way. So I would be looking through a crease like this and this for 5 seasons. I would have no visibility besides this.
Oh,
And they would
yeah.
have to animate those 10 eyeballs with CG graphics in post-production, very costly. So, uh, and it was a gorgeous design that would be great for a character that comes and goes. But as a series regular that has to
Yeah.
have layers and layers of emotional backstory and connection to other characters, when you're talking with a human and you're connecting with 10 eyeballs, they don't know where to look. And it's like you don't have the same
Yeah.
emotional pathos that a two-eyeballed beast has. So they redesigned Saru to what you know him as today and gave me those beautiful aqua blue contact lenses to make it a little bit more. And so that and that change was also that we had only because I was asked. The creature effects designer called me after our first test makeup in that big design and said, "How do you think it went today?" He called me later that night, and I said, "Well, you really want to know?" I'm trying to picture, and it was because it was so high and heavy. There was a helmet inside under the prosthetic makeup, and the helmet had to be tightened so that it wouldn't slip downward. Because every time you put your head down, it would go thunk and slip
Oh,
downward,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that would push the rubberized mask down a little bit. And so it and how much time did I spend on the bridge of that ship looking down at my panel and my devices? I just can't see this long term with that particular design. Not being able to see well, other characters not being able to connect to 10 eyeballs, and having this head slipping, and to make it not slip as much, you had to tighten it to the point where I had a headache all the time. So I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable for 5 seasons. So that's when he then, like, I think it was 2 days later, he sent me the design for the Saru that you know today. He said, "Would this work better for you?" I said, "Oh, that's him. That's him." And so the network also was on board with this change because those 10 eyeballs being that expensive to animate in
Oh,
post-production,
sure. Yeah.
they were like, "Yeah, if you want Saru in more than 2 shots per episode, we better make this." You know what I mean? Yeah. Money
Yeah.
talks.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It was an
Yeah,
economical decision for sure. Okay. That's a really cool background story. Thank you, Doug. I love little stories like that. Those are always nice to hear.
sure.
All right. Now, there are always some jobs that mean more to us due to personal fandoms or the reach that the fandom has because of the IP that it is. And you've had a chance to play in some pretty serious sandboxes over the years. You mentioned Hellboy, which has a very endeared following. Of course, Star Trek Discovery. But that is Star Trek itself is one of the most beloved IPs in the entirety of the world. What has your inclusion in the Trekkerverse meant to both you personally and professionally?
Oh, it's been good for both, honestly. Um, I'm old enough that I saw the original Star Trek series on TV on the network when it was first airing in 1966. I was 6 years old, and that took me to 9 years old. So, and then of course the reruns began in the early 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't miss Star Trek. Um, and I really leaned into uh, Spock. He was the one that I connected with because he was again, let's go back to my origin story, geeky kid who didn't feel like he fit in with anybody. Here's this Vulcan
Yeah.
character on a ship of human crew members, and he looked a little different. He sounded a little different. He was tall and skinny. I'm like, okay, that's my guy. I get Spock. So so when I was, all through all the iterations of Star Trek that have happened since then, you had Next Generation, you had Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and then after we were the first show to come after Enterprise. So it'd been about 15 years since the Star Trek show had been on the air. That offer came to me all of a sudden, and it was a straight up offer. They didn't want me to audition. They're just like, "Hey, can you play this Kelpian character?" I was like, "Whoa!" So I went, had a meeting with the writers' room and the producers to talk this out. To like, what's the show? What do you want me to do? And they presented it and showed me all the drawings and all of the, here's the world that Discovery is going to take place in. And they said, "Now you're not a Vulcan, you'll be a Kelpian, different species, but you will be the Spock of this show. And I knew exactly what they meant. And I'm like, yes. Again, another full circle moment for me where, I never thought that 6-year-old Dougie would have the chance to be the Spock of a new Star Trek series. So Saru became, he was very, unlike a Vulcan, Saru was very emotional and very, uh, emotionally available, and he wore his heart on his sleeve a lot. And what he was also born into fear. He was a very fearful species, and went through a metamorphosis sort of in season 2, where the fear went away, and he went through like an adolescence in his species timeline where he now all of a sudden has no fear whatsoever, and is more courageous and more confident. And I understood the old Saru because being the anxiety-ridden, fear-driven person that I am in real life, I understood this alien creature that was kind of fear-driven and anxiety-riddled. So when the writers I saw this episode where he makes the transition into his adulthood and with no fear, it's like, oh, I don't know how to play that. I've never been that. So I went on this journey with Saru. Dougie Jones and Saru went through this together. And I think so professionally, it gave me a whole wave of fandom that said, welcome to the family. I've been in the sci-fi, fantasy, horror, comic book genres already for many decades,
Sure.
but to have Trek come into your life, that brought a new wave of people that were a family that I had never experienced like that before. That was wonderful professionally for me. And it gave me a lot of street cred with more sci-fi. Personally, though, too, the journey that I took with Saru was I learned a lot that the trials and tribulations and challenges of the day will still keep coming at you no matter what. That's our earthly human experience.
Sure.
But the difference is how we react to those. I Instead of reacting in fear, like, oh, we're all going to die, I now can do what Saru did and transition into, we're going to get through this. We've done it before. We've gotten this far. We're going to keep going. So it's not what happens to you. It's how you react to it. I learned that a lot personally.
Love that. That's a great lesson learned. I think that anytime that we can take a silver lining out of anything that whether it's good or bad, there's lessons to be learned in life. And if we
Yeah.
can learn those things, it helps us progress. So I think that's awesome. All right. Well, Doug, you have answered all my questions admirably today, but I have one last silly question I must ask you.
Okay.
We call it a silly question, even though it's really not all that silly, um, because it just sounds more fun that way. I think is why we do it. But my co-host for my live shows, Kathleen, she was out and about with her daughter one day, and somebody asked her daughter this question, but didn't ask Kathleen. And Kathleen thought, well, that was rude. You should never age out of this question. Everybody should get asked this question. So
Okay.
that question is, Doug Jones, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Well, uh, let's see. They're all terrifying to me. Reptiles are not my favorite thing in general. Alligators terrify me to death to this day.
Fair.
That's why I don't step out of public places in Florida. But um uh but when it comes to dinosaurs, they're just big alligators to me. So of course, like the most popular T-Rex, he's intimidating, but he's got these little arms that are like, oh, that's not so bad. What can he do? But he's got a mouth that's got like a lot of power. But I think my favorite might be yeah, wait, is it considered a dinosaur? Is a pterodactyl considered a dinosaur? Kind of
I
a
do. I
flying
consider
dinosaur?
I consider it a dinosaur.
Yeah, I would
So
too. I would too. I like the pterodactyls because they're the one who flies, and there's something so romantic about the air, I guess, and being in it.
okay. I like that answer very much. All right, Doug, thank you so much for being on Pop Culture Addicts today. Where can our listeners and viewers go to find out more about you, your work, and whatever you've got coming next?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I'm on all the social medias at actor Doug Jones, and that would be Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Tumblr. I'm still on the Tumblr, Snapchat, Twitter, X now, and Blue Sky. So actor Doug Jones, all there. The one thing I'm not on is the TikTok. Maybe I should get on the TikTok. I don't know. We'll talk. We'll find out. But it seems like a younger platform with people dancing videos. I would be great in a dancing video, though, wouldn't I? I'm going to try it. Also, you can look for those social medias will always have what's coming next, what you can look for next. But I can tell you that I have a couple of guest appearances on TV shows that are in the can and done. One is a series called Blue Ridge. It'll be airing on the Inspiration Network, INSP.
Yeah.
And then I think once it's done, it's run on INSP. It has ended up on Amazon Prime. Season 1 did. So I'm in one episode of season 2 of Blue Ridge as a country mountain man with a backstory. So that was a fun one to play. That's coming yet to come. I think it hits the Inspiration Channel pretty soon, like in J month, June, July, something. Have a look for that. And also, Roseanne Barr actually has a new show coming called Mime, and I was able to do a few episodes of that show. It's crazy, wacky fun. It was to guest on that. I can't tell you anything about it besides that I was in it. But it also stars Randy Quaid, and we had a ball. All my scenes were with the two of them, and I had an absolute rollicking, hilarious time. So that's I'm not sure when that's coming or on what platform.
Okay.
Then also and more, I've done so many independent feature films in the last couple of years that they're starting to come out now, sort of here and there. So film festivals are showing a short that I was in called Pretty Boys, in which I play a washed up movie star that is now trying to make a comeback. Great fun. And my son is also a character in it. I mean, I have a son character in it that's grown up now and he doesn't like me. So we have to work those issues out. I'm also play a doctor in a movie called The Strawberry, which is doing great at film festivals as well. And I am my patient is 85-year-old Mike Farrell. You'll remember Mike Farrell from he played BJ Honeycutt on MASH TV series.
Yes.
So it's a very heartfelt, extremely tear-jerky family drama. And I play his doctor and I have to give him some news, and then he works it out with the family, and they come back to me later to figure out what to do from this point forward. So there's that. Yeah, and more movies like that, and more genre movies coming too. I did a silly movie called Demonetize, which is kind of some influencers are invited to go to record to participate in a haunted house of some sort, and they don't all make it out alive, but I'm their agent, and I think this is going to be great for their careers. So more and more things I did. Oh gosh, something called The Weeping, in which I played a sheriff. You kids can't camp here, but they do anyway, and all hell ensues. And I played another sheriff in a movie called House of Holloway, and in that one I wasn't as good as I purported to be. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Fair enough.
So these titles don't mean anything to you just yet because they're not out yet, but more and more are coming like that, where I've been playing humans in genre films, and hopefully, but I'll never say never. If another creature or monster role wants to come for me, I will have a look. I will see who's directing it, what's the story, is it a role that I really want, that sings to my heart to play, and is the paycheck correct? All those things. I'll never say never. I can still go into rubber bits if it strikes me.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'll make sure we'll put the links to your socials and everything down below, as well as the Get Me Doug Jones Kickstarter campaign. We'll put that information down below. We want to make sure that gets out for everybody to be able to find it. Okay, guys, thank you for watching and or listening to Pop Culture Addicts today. Be sure to go follow Doug on all of his socials that we'll have listed down below. Check out the Kickstarter. Sounds like there's going to be some fantastic one-of-a-kind deals there for anybody who's able to do that. Now, if you enjoyed what you watched and listened to today, make sure you click that like and follow button. And if you want to be a true blue pop culture addict person, I wasn't sure where I was going with that, but anyway, please consider leaving a review on your podcast listening platform and or leaving a comment here on YouTube. So until next time, and on behalf of Doug Jones, thank you for watching and or listening, and may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Pop Culture Addicts. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@pcapod.com.